Hail and well met, I am your humble scribe Amanda, here to invite you on an epic quest of daring do as we run down the rabbit hole of campaign setting creation. And you can marvel at just how quickly it goes off the rails. So, recording session before last, we kind of settled on using a binary planet system. And I did say that I was going to work out the maths, what have you. I have been trying to work out the maths for that whole situation for the better part of 6 weeks now. And I can't figure it out. But a friend of mine gave me a solution. And it is sheer genius. It is brilliance. It is awesomeness personified in his form and his brain. Yavin 4. Or the forest moon of Endor. What do I mean by that? Well, as it happens, I might just happen to have a little example. So, originally we were going to have a binary planet system which was going to be something like that, and they would be orbiting a shared point like that. The problem with that was figuring out the maths and the timing of that center section here, the actual orbit of that. And I went so far as to basically get a review copy of Universe Sandbox 2, and I think it's Universe Sandbox 2. I'll have to check it up. I have to do a review of it. But anyway, I went as far as to get a review copy of that to try and figure this out. I couldn't figure it out. I am weeks trying to figure this out. So I was kind of going over the idea with a friend of mine, and he just said, why don't you use the Forest Moon or the Yavin 4 model? And that is genius. It's brilliant because it saves me so much hassle. Why is that? Endor and Yavin 4 both orbit in the Star Wars universe, both orbit gas giants. Gas giants, so basically they're moons of a gas giant which is orbiting inside the habitable zone of their particular star. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it still lets me do my regular predictable eclipse situation, but it lets me scale it up big time. And it lets me do some really fucked up shit with the story of the world. That, like, when this was pointed out to me, my mind just went... I mean, it was just one of those bolt from the blue moments, because it was, oh, I can do this, and I can do that, and this means that I can have this in this setting, and this means that it allows me to do... It opens up so many options. Having a prolonged period of regular night where you literally have... So, I'll explain it this way. In this here, what we basically have is, this is the sun, this is our gas giant, this is our world, and this is the orbit it inhabits. So, essentially, for all of this, it has a normal day-night cycle. It is not going to be a tide-locked moon, so it has its own orbit. And actually, I really should add that to this because I didn't. And, yeah, that was kind of silly. But in essence, by it having its own orbit, having its own rotation, it means that day to night it has a completely standard... I need to set this to ruler mode. Yes, god damn it. Kitty. Okay, so that's rotating. I want it to be on the same plane of rotation. Remove the stencil. So, it has its own normal standard day-night cycle, and it's going to be a bog standard. I'm actually going to make it a 20-hour... Well, probably a 20-hour day-night cycle, just because of how much it simplifies working out the maths of this world. I may not do that. When I sit down to actually go through it all, I might change my mind. I haven't completely decided yet. This is one of the things about campaign setting creation for me, is it's very fluid up until I'm actually certain. So, and I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does to me. admit it, you kind of love me. So the idea with this is by having a standard day-night cycle, you have real normality for, say, 5 out of a 6-day orbit around this gas giant. I actually need to research actual gas giants to find out what their average day-night cycle is. But, there we go. But for one section of this, you're going to have a twilight on either side. And then you're going to have deep night on both sides of the planet at the same time. But here's the really interesting part. On the side facing the gas giant, you're probably not going to have stars. You'll have the gas giant if it has any luminosity. If it has no luminosity, you're just going to have this pitch black sky. No moons, no stars, no nothing. And that is terrifying. It allows me to do things like almost having a gothic horror element to the world if people want to use it, because you have a world where for essentially a full day in each week it's in total darkness on both sides and all the nasty beasties can come out to play. I love this idea. I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to work. And the fact that SETI, not SETI, I can't remember the name of it, the group that are researching exoplanets, from their findings, there are a lot of gas giants in the habitable zones of stars. It almost seems like worlds of our size in the habitable zone free orbiting seem to be kind of in the minority. Now that might be partially due to the methods being used to discover these exoplanets, but at the same time it lends an air of credence to this and an air of this works. So there's that. I do need to figure out the star type. Yes, I know people are going to go, why are you doing it this way? Why are you adding so much complexity to it? There are arguments on both sides for simplicity and complexity in a campaign setting. Simplicity means that the campaign setting is going to be much easier for a GM to just run straight out of the box. There would be relatively little learning time required. But here's the thing about a complex campaign setting, and it's one of the reasons why I prefer complex campaign settings. You don't have to use the complexity. You can literally just read the flavor text in a a setting book and go, okay, I'm going to run this. I have a good idea of how this world works. I don't care about the tables. I don't care about the maths. I'm just going to run this world as it feels to me, which is great for those types of GMs. And very often I am that type of GM. On the other hand, I'm also sometimes the kind of GM that goes to a really complex campaign setting and spends months reading about it. If there's any novels set in it, I'll read as many of the novels as I can find, so that I have a greater detailed microscopic knowledge of the world. I want to create a campaign setting that both types of GMs can use and enjoy. For the people who like simplicity, I will put these in very, very simple terms. For the people who like complexity, I would also like to add complexity to put into place the kind of stuff that GMs who really like to get into the nitty-gritty of a setting, to give them the opportunity to do that. And this is a really good first step in that direction. It's not really a first step, let's be honest, but it's a really good step in that direction by having this, being able to say, okay, well, God damn it. What? Oh yeah, it's set to white, isn't it? Like 1 in 6 days is total night. And I can read that. Isn't that frightening? So for them, it can be as simple as that. But for the kind of GM, say if you're running, if you decide to use the setting, but advance it in time and bring it into something like the modern era, you might be the kind of GM who goes, it's not like like a simplistic GM, which is not an insult at all. I love playing games with GMs who just take the campaign at face value and run with it, and the stuff they come out with is incredible. It's usually very, very creative. But I also like the GMs who go, well, okay, so how much of that is Twilight? Okay, so we're going to set a campaign setting where we're going to set up an adventure where the party have to achieve X in Twilight. Because if they don't, night falls and all the boogeymen come out to play. I want to have that option for them. I want to have that option to go into that really complex, really... Well, not really complex, but more complex, more complete viewpoint on the world. By the way, this solves one big problem for me. I've been reading a little bit about gas giants, and I was reading about Jupiter. And apparently Jupiter kicks off a lot of radiation. I mean a fuck ton of radiation. Like a manned mission to the Jupiter area would probably end up with cancers. I think it's Jupiter. It must be Jupiter. Anyway, apparently gas giants can kick off a lot of radiation, and you know what species don't deal well with radiation? Us. So it gives me an easy out for not having humans in this. Humans can't survive in this. They cannot survive in this setting. I say humans, but there's one human who can, and I never did define what happened to him in the long run. Yeah. Those of you who have played in my games or watched a certain earlier video in my Stay a While series will know exactly who I'm talking about. And right now, the creator of insanity himself is sitting there with a great big silly grin on his face. That's right, he rides again. Well, kind of. So yeah, this is a short episode this week. I just wanted to talk about this a little bit and kind of show, in a way, how when you're creating something, anything artistic, and I do consider this to be artistic, you can be in the middle of creating it and everything goes out the window because of some random outside interaction. Like my chatting with my friend in the US, Tom, who I've never met in person. But when I want to bounce ideas off, he's one of my go-to guys, and he comes out with this, and it's like, this is the answer I've been looking for. And it's brilliant. So I'll be back again actually, I'll probably be back next week. What I might try and do is like do little short snippet episodes every second week. Or if I don't have one of those snippet episodes, I might just do a standard stay a while and listen. Yeah, I might be back next week. I don't know. There'll be something next Saturday. Worst case scenario, Saturday week, I'll be back with a next full episode of Let's Build a Campaign Setting. So have a great day. Have a great weekend. Be good. Bye for now.